My name's Darren Moore, and I am Group Commercial Director at Taxist Accountants. Bit of background, we're a network of franchisees servicing the UK with 220 franchisees, 370 locations, and about 76,000 clients. And my job is to support the network and to help them from a technical point of view on a number of matters, including COVID-19, which has obviously proven to be very challenging in recent times with everything that's happening. What I want to talk about today is a specific aspect of COVID-19 support that's been announced by the government, particularly around directors and what is called furloughing. So just a bit of background first. So one of the initiatives introduced by the government in the last few weeks has been the Job Retention Scheme, which is a scheme that's designed to try to support employers. So it helps them retain people in difficult times and provides funding to support them, up to 80% of a salary cost, with a cap of £2,500 in terms of what can be claimed each month. And that's proven to be a very important scheme for employers, obviously, in terms of protecting their businesses, and one that we absolutely support. The difficulty really is how that works for directors and the reality of how that now works in terms of the detail we have. So in terms of what's out there, the scheme has been announced and certain details have been released, but what we don't have as yet is full details of exactly how it will work. So we're still waiting for those. So anything we say has to be caveated on that basis. The second question really is how it works for different groups of people, because in some cases it's very easy to understand. In other cases it's far more difficult. And unfortunately, directors are a grouping where it's more complicated to understand how it may work, for a couple of reasons really. The first one is the reality of how directors actually work. Now, furloughing, which is a new term, not one we'd used previously, is about people not being available for work. They're retained as employees, but they cannot work under the scheme to be eligible. Now, if you're an employee, that's relatively simple for somebody to be separated from the business. If you're a director, actually that's much, much harder, generally speaking, particularly if you're a small company, and particularly if you are a sole director. So how does that work? Well, the scheme rules have talked about things that can be done. So if you're a company director, it's recognised that you can be furloughed and still deal with some of your statutory responsibilities. So that could be filing accounts, company secretarial work, just the basics of running the company in terms of its statutory responsibilities. What isn't clear is what you'd have to do to shut a company down to demonstrate that you can be furloughed. Because actually, particularly for small companies, it's really difficult to do that. Can you, at a practical level, really distance yourself from everything that's involved in running a company? So talking to customers, talking to suppliers, talking to contacts, we think it's really hard to do that. And we think it's perhaps not practical to expect that to happen. But at the moment, the rules are suggesting that that's what's needed. You have to be distanced from the business. So that's the first challenge. The second challenge is around just the way the calculations work. Now, I talked earlier about 80% is available up to £2,500 per month. That's difficult because that's based on your salary. Now, for many directors, their salary, so going through PAYE, will simply be a basic level that's usually advised around the national insurance threshold, so £8,000 or £9,000 a year. Most of the income for company directors tends to be through dividends, and dividends are specifically excluded at the moment in this calculation, which means that the value of the claims may actually be quite low for directors. So there's some concern there about what that actually means in terms of their income. So those two things actually mean that it's quite difficult. Can directors be furloughed? Yes, in theory they can, but there's a question mark about that employment piece, and there's a question mark over the finances as well. So what do we recommend directors do? Well, there isn't really a single rule that applies here, it seems, because of the circumstances I've set out. What we would suggest is you talk to your accountants. It will be down to your own particular circumstances in terms of whether you can be furloughed, and that's something they can advise you on. And do keep talking to your accountants about how this develops over time. We are expecting more news. We hope within the next week or two, we might need some more information coming out from the government, which is much needed because there are lots of questions there. And we would recommend that you keep an eye on some of the petitioning that's going on out there as well, in terms of some of the things that we think are unfair. We have written to the Chancellor just setting out our concerns, and we hope that that will be acted upon. So please do take some of these things into consideration. Do talk to your accountants. There is an opportunity there, we think. do keep looking out for information, and please do stay safe. Thank you.